Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Michelangelo and this is the beginning of my YouTube channel, something which I wanted to do for 11 years now. I'm 27 now, so yeah, I was 16 when I dreamed of this, and I got the courage 11 years later, so there it is. I've been doing photography since 2014. For some time, that was for a very short period of time, that was professional, until I came back and decided for it to be a passion, which kind of regret going that way right now, but we'll see. You know, life can bring many changes, and many exciting things are yet to come, I believe. Right, so this video I wanted to present to you all a film camera that I've been, very happy using. It is a Canon film camera. I'm recording this on a Canon 6D, so I am very much into the system already. And I've been using a few different film cameras, M42 cameras, Minolta cameras. Back when I was with Nikon, I used to have a Nikon F501, I think it was called, and a Nikon F80. And then I switched to Canon, and here is the Canon 300V. Now this model, as far as I understand, was sold in the North American market, marketed as a Rebel 3Ti, I think, or 3.5, something of the kind. I'll check it later and try to put it up on the video. So it is a very consumer. Yeah, I mean a very basic film camera, something that you might say, a non-professional would use, which I'll come back to later, because I think a camera is essentially a camera, but they do differ, and hence the video. So the EOS 300V, or Rebel. Again, I'll check the number later, the exact marking, was a beginner grade film camera from Canon. I believe they started selling it in 99 or 98, somewhere around that time. So, very late 90s to early 2000s, which, I mean, you can see that obviously with the design and the lines and, the color they chose for it. Again, very basic camera. We have just one wheel on the top plate where you can select your funny automatic modes like portrait and landscape, full auto, or obviously the P, TV, AV and M modes, and the automatic depth of field mode as well, which is funny. I may come back to that. I haven't used it myself. So this camera obviously takes the same EF lenses, so Canon full frame lenses, as the Canon 6D that I'm using, or the 5D that you might be using, or even if you have a RF mount, you probably are still using some EF lenses on an adapter, so this might be useful to you. I'm recording this with a 40mm f2.8 STM lens that I usually use on this camera, so just for the video, and not have this really open that long, I'm gonna put on this EOS 58 f.2 on an M42 adapter that I have. Quite a cool portrait lens, not maybe everyday use, but nice to have anyway. Yeah, so to go quickly over the camera, I think we'll actually sit down and do a top-down view of the camera, but just a few words before we do that. Despite this only having one adjustment wheel on top, if you're like me and shoot in aperture priority mode the most of the time, it shouldn't be really an issue for you. It's not an issue for me. I haven't had any problems. If you, however, wanted to change, let's say, the shutter speed in manual mode, you would click on one of the buttons up top and then select the shutter speed. Pretty easy stuff to use. As far as options and films or features of this, let's say one of the things that I like the most, even though it's not the most important, is the fact that once you put the film inside the camera, it will roll out all of that film, and you'll be shooting it kind of backwards. So as soon as you take a picture, that's quite a nice sound too. As soon as you do take a picture, the film will roll backwards, and it will go into the canister. So you wouldn't do that on purpose, but let's say if you accidentally open the back door, you wouldn't lose your pictures. You would lose the film that was not yet exposed, because your pictures will be back inside the canister. It is very light for other features, and with the 40mm f2.8 lens, it is a quite nice combo. It has a built-in flash, which also helps with autofocusing when you're in the dark. It will just do the a series of tiny flashes that will help it autofocus. It's very plasticky. I'm sure you can tell by the finish of it, and also it has one LCD screen on the back that gives you all of the information that you need to take good pictures. Yeah. So the only comparison is regarding, in regards to film cameras of that era that I have, were to the Nikon F80 or N80, and that Nikon is a bit of a higher model. It has, if I remember correctly, 2 adjustment wheels on it, and it felt a little bit more, better made. But arguably, that era of Nikon, if I were again in this age, living in the 90s, I would probably choose a Nikon film camera back then than a Canon film camera. Yeah, but I don't think on another hand that matters much, because both of the companies were always competing with each other and trying to make the best product. It's just the fact that the F80, it's a bit of a higher up model, that it felt a little bit nicer to use, maybe ergonomics wise. Other than that, you can take great pictures with this and the F80, and shouldn't limit you in any way. Other things about this camera that I find quite interesting, being a Canon 6D user, is the autofocus. So the autofocus on this, it hunts a bit more for focus than a 6D. The autofocus points are a bit less spread out, but it's just as fast, maybe slightly slower, but it's just as fast. So yeah, if you're looking for a film camera on the cheap, because those are expensive, at least yet, and you are a Canon user, I think this is a very good choice. And this is a part 1 of this video. In part 2, we'll be actually shooting with this camera, and you'll get to see the results. Stay tuned for that if you'd like to know what it feels like and what it looks like to shoot with this, with actual film inside. Let's take a better look at this camera sitting down. Let's start from the beginning. The top plate. Here you have your shutter button, your adjustment wheel, your program selection wheel. This is your drive selections. You have a single photo, multiple, and a timer. Let's just pop it into P for now. So on the back screen, you can light it up to see better. That's pretty convenient if you ask me. You have all of the information. So in program, you have shutter speed, aperture number. Right here. Here is your AF point selection. So I can choose this by clicking on the button right there. And also a function button, which allows you to choose your ISO speed manually for the film. This is your anti-red eye. you know, the wireless, the pilot, yeah. Multiple exposures on one frame of film and exposure bracketing, and that's really it. With this you can rewind your film when you're done, and yeah, that's really it on the top and the back. Yeah, actually no, this is your exposure lock and this is your autofocus selection point. On the front you have the flash button, which is really nice, and let's just change the aperture for this one. You have your depth of field preview button. Yeah, and that's really it, and let's load a roll of film into this. Okay, and let's load up a roll of film. As I don't know if I mentioned, we're using Kodak Gold 200. Yeah, so let me just take this out. Yeah, and you open this camera by sliding this down. Yeah, and you can pop up this, and this is very simple. I find it quite intriguing after using many of the older film cameras. You just line up your film with the arrow over there, and as soon as I close it, it should load it automatically, or after I switch it on. Yeah, and the other part that's nice about this camera, you get to see your load of, you know, your roll of film in this little window right here, and as you can see, 36 exposures, and obviously after you take a photo, the number is gonna go down. Yep, so stay tuned for part 2 of this film.